Gold prices were skyrocketing, and my mother told me so in a dream. She said she'd left a pair of gold bracelets by my bed for me to wear. They would bring me wealth and bless the child in my belly. But when I got the bracelets, I secretly gave them to the vicious dog my neighbor kept locked up. Because in my last life, my sister and I had married 2 brothers and gotten pregnant at the same time. During a checkup, the doctor said my sister's baby looked deformed and recommended she terminate the pregnancy. My sister didn't seem to care at all. That night, my mother came to me in a dream, and I found the gold bracelets on my nightstand. I told my sister about it. She snatched the bracelets and forced them onto my wrist. "You always said Mom played favorites with me," she said. "But after she died, weren't you the first person she thought of? Just wear them." I listened to her, wearing the bracelets constantly. But on the day we gave birth, my sister delivered a healthy, rosy baby boy with a loud, strong cry. My child, however, was a monster born with 2 sets of reproductive organs. It stopped breathing the moment it was born. But during all my checkups, my baby had been perfectly normal. I realized this had everything to do with my sister and those bracelets. Seeing my monstrous child, I went insane with grief and rage. I dug up my mother's grave and screamed at my sister. "Why? Why is Mom still paving the way for you even after she's dead?" She had me committed to a psychiatric hospital, where I died, consumed by depression. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day of my mother's dream. "Chloe, I left a pair of solid gold bracelets for you on the nightstand. They're a full 100 grams. Get them tomorrow and wear them for good fortune. They'll also protect your baby and make sure he's healthy." Hearing that familiar voice, a cold sweat soaked my back. I realized I'd been reborn. My mother's kind face now looked eerie and terrifying. After all, she'd never been this good to me before. In my past life, when I found the bracelets, my first instinct was to give them to my sister. But she insisted our mother was thinking of me. She forcefully slid the bracelets onto my wrist and told me to take good care of them. I believed her. I didn't notice the look of contempt in her eyes as she watched me put them on. Before my mother died, she'd been terribly ill, and I was the only one there to care for her. On her deathbed, her frail, bony hand gripped mine tightly. I was so blind my whole life. I can't believe I spoiled that ungrateful wretch Mia. The second I got sick, she was the first to run. "You're the only one who was a good daughter. You're my only real daughter." I thought the bracelets were her reward for my devotion, and I trusted her completely. I had no idea they were setting a trap for me. Putting on those bracelets was the beginning of my descent into hell. My sister and I had married a pair of brothers. My sister, Mia, had to compete with me for everything. When she found out I was dating someone, she tried to seduce my then boyfriend multiple times. But my husband loved me and didn't fall for her tricks. Later, she was caught in bed with his younger brother in my own apartment. So they ended up getting married in a hurry. Because of that, our mother-in-law didn't like her at first. Then 3 months after the wedding, I got pregnant. The moment I told our mother-in-law, Mia announced she was having morning sickness too. That's when our mother-in-law made an announcement. "Whichever one of you gives me my firstborn grandson first, I'll give a $5 million mansion." Mia immediately puffed out her chest and guaranteed her baby would be a healthy boy. But her behavior was anything but good for a developing baby. Never mind that she and my brother-in-law were constantly having sex. The housekeeper would come out of their room blushing every day. They also hung out with a bad crowd, drinking, smoking, and even street racing. They clearly didn't care about the baby in her womb. As for me, I didn't have any special expectations for my child. Boy or girl, it didn't matter. I just wanted the baby to be born healthy. So my husband made sure the housekeeper cooked light, healthy meals for me every day. He also took me for walks and light exercise to help ensure a smooth delivery. On the day of our checkup, the doctor confirmed that my baby was positioned perfectly and all its vitals were excellent. Mia's baby, however, looked like a shapeless mass. The doctor suggested she terminate. "You old fool, you must be mistaken. My baby is perfectly fine." Mia shot back. I tried to persuade her to listen to the doctor, telling her she and my brother-in-law were still young. But Mia just looked me up and down and smirked. "Sister, you should worry about your own baby. Mine will definitely be healthier than yours. I didn't understand what she meant back then. Now it all made sense. My mother had never loved me, not for a single moment. She knew Mia disrespected our mother-in-law and wasn't well liked, so she decided to use my child as a stepping stone for her. She would make me give birth to a monster so Mia could have the healthy, firstborn grandson. The bracelets had to be the conduit. This time, I wouldn't be so stupid. I wouldn't let them drain the life from my child. With that thought, I looked up and gave my mother's dream form a sweet smile. Thanks, Mom. I'll be sure to take very good care of these bracelets. At the same time, I made a silent vow. I would find them a much more suitable home. I woke up the next morning. I took the shimmering gold bracelets from the nightstand. They looked exactly as I remembered. They were heavy in my hand, definitely around 100 grams. I took the bracelets and went to the hospital first. I not only had a prenatal checkup but also a full physical. The doctors and nurses couldn't help but chuckle. Ms. Anderson, you're perfectly healthy, and so is your baby. You don't need to worry so much. I let out a sigh of relief. At least for now, my baby was still safe and sound inside me. Its life force hadn't been siphoned off by the baby in my sister's womb. Next, I went to a jewelry store. I had an identical pair of solid gold bracelets made, matching the weight perfectly, and tucked them into my purse. Then I headed home. For once, Mia and my brother-in-law were actually at home. Normally at this time of day, they'd still be passed out drunk from a night at the bars. Seeing my wrists were bare, Mia was clearly annoyed. But she tried to hide it, speaking carefully. Yesterday was the anniversary of Mom's death. I had a dream about her. She didn't say much, just that she'd misjudged me and that she wouldn't leave me anything. Sister, did you dream about Mom yesterday? A flicker of impatience showed in her eyes. Meeting her expectant gaze, I nodded. I dreamed of Mom too. She said she left me a pair of gold bracelets. Then why aren't you wearing them? It was a gift from her heart. Mia grabbed my hand frantically, her face twisting with anxiety. I pulled the other pair of bracelets from my bag and moved to put them on her. Mom just talks tough, but she has a soft heart. Growing up, didn't she always give you the best of everything? Here, sister, you can have the bracelets. Mia recoiled in terror, waving her hands frantically. No, Mom left those for you. How could I possibly take them? As she spoke, she gripped my hand, snatched the bracelets, and roughly forced them onto my wrist. My hand was bleeding from her nails, but she didn't stop. Only when the bracelets were securely on my wrist did she finally seem to relax. Mom gave these to you. Wear them well. Who knows, maybe they'll bless that useless womb of yours and help you pop out a big fat boy. Her words dripped with sarcasm. She turned away coldly and went back to her room with a bottle of liquor. Once the obscene noises started coming from their room, I knocked on my neighbor's door, and I put the real gold bracelets on the snarling, barking, vicious dog. After that was done, I went back to my room and continued my cardio workout. That evening, my husband and mother-in-law came home. At the dinner table, my mother-in-law's face was grim. Are you two trying to kill my grandchild, carrying on like that every day? Mia and my brother-in-law exchanged a look, then shot a sly glance in my direction. Don't worry, Mom. Our baby will definitely be a healthy boy, Mia said. You should tell my sister to stop wasting her time. Look how small her belly is. The baby will probably be a stillborn. She cursed me like that. My husband's face darkened, and he was about to reprimand them. But suddenly, Mia clutched her stomach and cried out in pain. My mother-in-law immediately had someone take her to the hospital. On the way, she scolded my brother-in-law, telling him he wasn't being careful enough with a pregnant woman. Mia was in agony, drenched in a cold sweat, but her eyes were locked on my hands. She stared at the gleaming gold bracelets. A hint of doubt appeared in her eyes. Sister, are you feeling okay today? She was the one being rushed to the hospital, yet she was asking about my health. The paramedic riding with us looked at me with envy. You sisters have such a great relationship. Married into the same family and pregnant together. Your sister is in so much pain, but she's still worried about you. I put on a happy smile. Inside, I was laughing coldly. She wasn't worried about me at all. She was just feeling that something was wrong with her body and suspected her and our mother's little scheme had gone awry. Mia, you're the one we need to worry about right now. My baby is being very quiet. I barely feel a thing. Hearing my words, the expression on Mia's face was comical. One moment it was elation, the next it was a grimace of pain. When we finally got to the hospital, the doctor said her baby was very healthy, abnormally active in fact. It's constantly moving around in there, which is why you're feeling pain. When my mother-in-law heard that, her look of blame instantly turned to joy. I'm sorry Mom misjudged you too. The next day, Mia came over to show me the new luxury handbag our mother-in-law had bought her. Sister, some things just aren't meant for you. See? Even with all your care, your baby isn't as active as mine. You were born to be a defective loser. She spared no effort in putting me down. But I didn't react at all, because even though she was only 3 months along, her belly was already twice the size of mine. She was out of breath just from walking. Yesterday, when my brother-in-law tried to get close to her, the baby apparently punched him so hard from inside that his face was still swollen. He didn't look happy with Mia at all. Honey, doesn't this just mean our baby is lively and active? It must be a boy, Mia said, trying to sweet-talk him. She didn't notice that her dear husband was already opening a dating app. I almost burst out laughing. Lively and active indeed. I hoped she'd still be saying that when the baby was born. Seeing her husband pull away impatiently, Mia took her anger out on me again. It's all your fault for eating so healthy lately. What does your baby's activity have to do with me? Noticing my confused look, she realized she'd said too much and quickly shut her mouth. You eat so healthy, but your baby just sits there like a lump. I think you should just give up and get an abortion. After saying that, she gritted her teeth through the pain and chugged a large bottle of hard liquor. She smirked at me while she drank. Did she really think the alcohol she was drinking would somehow affect my baby? I smiled back. I think since I'm so healthy, my baby is probably just a quiet one. Instantly, Mia snorted with laughter. She looked at me like I was an idiot, then glanced at the gold bracelets on my wrist. You're in for a disappointment then. That mansion is going to be mine. She heaved her large belly up and gave me a hard shove. I was fine, but the momentum from her oversized stomach sent her tumbling to the floor. Her scream brought our mother-in-law downstairs. Mia pointed at me with red-rimmed eyes. Mom, she's jealous that my baby is healthy, so she pushed me. Without a second thought, my mother-in-law slapped me hard across the face. Even though you're both pregnant, it's obvious Mia is carrying a boy. Why else would he be so active? Don't you dare try to harm my firstborn grandson. That night, my mother-in-law yelled at me for 2 solid hours. When my husband came home and saw my swollen face, his eyes filled with pain. I'm going to talk to Mom. We're moving out. My brother and your sister have been completely out of line lately. I shook my head. Mia would never let us move out. She needed to make sure those bracelets stayed on my wrist. It would probably just get my husband yelled at too. Since she wanted to play dirty, then I would too. As my due date approached, I went through the photos the private investigator had sent me over the past few months. Pictures of my brother-in-law cheating and hiring escorts. I sent them to my sister from a burner account. Sure enough, a scream erupted from the hospital room next door. Over the last few months, Mia's belly had grown larger and larger, and it had started making strange noises. My brother-in-law couldn't stand it, and was almost never home. We had recently been moved to the hospital to await labor, and he hadn't visited her once. The shock made her water break. She was going into labor, and at that exact moment, my own contractions started. Doctors rushed us into separate delivery rooms. When I came to, I heard a doctor say with relief, "They're both boys and both were born safely." Mia shot up in bed. How is that possible? Just then my baby let out a bark. The nurse holding him jumped in shock and dropped him. But the baby landed on all fours and started crawling across the floor, bearing a full set of fangs. Mia clutched her stomach and howled with laughter. Sister, look what you gave birth to. A monster. She pointed to a plump, quiet baby nearby. See what I had? He's the true firstborn grandson of this family. Your mother-in-law will have a heart attack when she sees that thing. I stared at the scene in disbelief. How could this be? Weren't the bracelets supposed to transfer the dog's traits to her baby? Why was my child the one who was part dog? Could I have been wrong from the start? A wave of helplessness washed over me. How did this happen? Mia's triumphant voice rang in my ears. The mansion is mine. You have only yourself to blame, sister. You were stupid enough to believe Mom would actually be nice to you in a dream. After hearing that both babies were healthy boys, our mother-in-law burst into the room excitedly. When she saw the infant barking on the floor, her face went white with terror. What in God's name is that thing? Mia turned and sneered at me. That's the thing my sister gave birth to. It's a dog child. Our mother-in-law kept backing away. Chloe, what did you do? How did you turn my grandson into this thing? David, if you don't divorce her, I'll disown you. My husband was stunned, but his first instinct was to comfort me. Our baby might just be sick. It's okay, I'll work hard to pay for his treatment. My eyes instantly welled with tears, and a warmth spread through my heart. But something still felt wrong. How could I have been wrong about this? In my last life, Mia had used those gold bracelets to transfer all the harm she'd done during her pregnancy onto my child. I stared at the baby on the floor, which was snapping at anyone who came near, and I suddenly started to laugh. Mia thought I had lost my mind. David, I think you'd better find a new wife. My sister can laugh after giving birth to a monster. She needs to be committed. Who said that's my baby? I want to see the security footage. I turned my head and looked at Mia with a playful smile. I remembered being slightly conscious as I gave birth. I clearly saw my baby had a small red birthmark on his right arm. The child barking on the floor had smooth, white skin. It obviously wasn't my son. Are you suggesting someone switched them? There are only 2 babies here. Who would swap a monster for your baby? Mia rolled her eyes, unconcerned. My mother-in-law told me to stop making a scene. It's your own body that failed you. What good will looking at security footage do? But in the next second, the smile froze on Mia's face. A nurse ran in panting. There was a mistake. What do you mean? Then which one is my grandson? Our mother-in-law asked, completely bewildered. They're both your grandsons, but the one on the floor belongs to Ms. Mia. The healthy one is Ms. Chloe's. We made a mistake in the confusion and gave them to the wrong mothers. My husband instantly snatched the baby from Mia's arms and brought him to me, saying sarcastically, "Of course. Our baby is just as cute and quiet as he was in your belly." I added with a cold smile. What's wrong, Mia? Weren't you just saying how lively and active your baby was? Why won't you claim him now? Our mother-in-law grabbed the nurse's phone, and after watching the video, her expression changed dramatically. Mia, it's all your fault for being so reckless during your pregnancy. You're the one who turned my grandson into this thing. Mia watched the video over and over in shock, muttering to herself, Impossible. Chloe wore the gold bracelets the whole time. Her baby was supposed to be the monster. My mother-in-law had already rushed to my side, asking me where I wanted my new mansion to be. She even booked me into the city's best postpartum care center on the spot. Mia, who had always been our mother's favorite, couldn't handle it. She started screaming, "Mother-in-law, that's my mansion. I had a son too." But my mother-in-law pretended not to hear, and continued chatting happily with me. I was wrong earlier, dear. You and your husband live such healthy lives. How could you possibly have a monster? She turned and scolded my brother-in-law. And you brought this crazy woman into our family. Divorce her immediately. My brother-in-law didn't seem to mind. He was just as selfish as his wife. Besides, Mia hadn't taken care of herself during the pregnancy, staying up all night drinking. Her stomach was a mess of wrinkled stretch marks, enough to make anyone lose their appetite. He had been wanting to bring his new little girlfriend home for a while now. Fine. When we get back, I'll file for divorce. Abandoned just moments after giving birth, she began to scream hysterically. But no one paid her any attention. Even though she was my sister, what she and my mother did to me in my past life had destroyed the last bit of family feeling I had for her. My mother-in-law had me moved to a luxury suite. Mia was left alone in a standard room. She screamed and raged, but no one came. Her child was put in a dog crate brought by the nurses. The doctors couldn't find anything wrong with him after numerous tests. Instead, they discovered the infant was even growing a tailbone. His skeletal structure was almost identical to that of a hound. "We don't know what's going on with this child," the doctor said. "It's like a dog in a human suit." Hearing the doctors say the child was incurable, our mother-in-law avoided Mia like the plague. My bedside table was piled high with expensive fruit baskets. The doctor said we could go home after one more day of observation. My mother-in-law clutched his sleeve, asking repeatedly if he was absolutely sure my son was okay, only relaxing when he confirmed it. "You were such a good girl, following the diet and exercising. Not like that tramp, who was always causing trouble." Looking at her grandson, who was smiling sweetly at her, my mother-in-law's heart melted. "I'm going to the jewelry store tomorrow to have a solid gold ingot made for his 1-month celebration." Just then Mia appeared in our room, her face full of resentment. "Why, I'm your daughter-in-law too." "Daughter-in-law? Look at what you gave birth to. A dog. Who knows what you did to cheat on my son?" Even though our mother-in-law was the one yelling at her, Mia grabbed my shoulders and screamed in my face. "Did you do something? Where are your gold bracelets? Did you tamper with them? Is there something wrong with the bracelets? Weren't you the one who said they were a gift from Mom to bless my child and keep him healthy?" I asked, feigning confusion. Realizing her words were making everyone suspicious, Mia snapped her mouth shut. Fearing she would disturb my rest, our mother-in-law immediately threw her out of the room. In my last life, this was exactly how they had treated me. Now the tables had completely turned. The next day, we went home. Mia followed in a taxi. At first, she refused to take the child she had birthed, but a nurse simply carried it to the car for her. The driver, afraid she'd leave the wailing infant in his car, put the baby on the curb the second they arrived. The neighbors all saw the newborn crawling on all fours, snarling and baring its teeth at them. They started whispering among themselves. "My God, that thing's a monster. It looks exactly like the Fisher family's vicious dog." You know, now that you mention it, the Fisher's dog has been even crazier lately. The other day I heard it crying like a baby. Just then, Mr. Fisher himself came out carrying a cage. "This dog just cries all night now. We're taking it to the pound." Seeing the dog in the cage, Mia leaped up as if she'd been electrocuted. "Why does that dog have gold bracelets on?" "Mr. Fisher, where did those come from?" Startled by Mia, Mr. Fisher answered irritably, "What's it to you? I don't know how they got there, but it won't let me take them off, so I just left them." Looking at her own son, then at the whimpering dog, Mia finally understood everything. She pointed a trembling finger at me. "You bastard! You gave the bracelets to a dog." I found it a little funny. Who I give them to is my business, isn't it? You said the bracelets would protect me. So naturally, I wanted to do a good deed. Giving them to a dog might bring me good karma. And look, isn't my son perfectly healthy and well-behaved now? With a crazed look on her face, Mia tried to pull the bracelets off the dog's leg. But the infant's transformation hadn't been fully completed. And the dog was still a dog. It bit down hard, and Mia screamed in agony. "It hurts." Blood instantly gushed from her arm. We all heard the sickening crack of bone. My brother-in-law spoke with disgust. "Mia, isn't it embarrassing enough that you gave birth to a monster? What are you freaking out about now?" Mia turned to him looking wronged. "That dog is our son. It's all Chloe's fault. If we put the bracelets back on her son, our child can be cured. Mom said she gave the bracelets to Chloe on purpose. That way, no matter how much we messed around during the pregnancy, our baby would be fine." In her panic, she blurted out the entire conspiracy she and my mother had cooked up, not noticing the dark look in my husband's eyes. My husband loved me deeply. He had always felt for me because of my childhood. After my father died, my mother grew to hate me because I looked so much like him. Whenever my sister did something wrong, I was the one who got yelled at and locked in a dark room. She didn't even want me to go to college. I had to work for months, taking on countless part-time jobs, just to scrape together the tuition. There was no money for living expenses, and I had to give half of my financial aid to my sister. Most men ran when they heard about my past. But my husband just held my hand and promised to treat me well for the rest of our lives. He had wanted to split the family assets and move away as soon as he found out my sister had seduced his brother. I was the one who convinced him it wasn't necessary. I didn't want him to leave his own mother because of me. But now, hearing that my mother was still scheming against me even after her death, he finally exploded. Mom, either we cut ties, or we split the family assets now. I can't let Chloe keep living here and be manipulated by her sister like this. But our mother-in-law just dismissed it as Mia's ravings. She's lost her mind. How could there be such a thing as swapping fates? And don't you even think about taking my grandson away. She didn't notice that her younger son's eyes were fixed on the dog's leg. After all, according to his mother's decree, whoever had the healthy son was the firstborn grandson, and she would give them $5 million for a mansion. Our mother-in-law still didn't know that he'd recently crippled someone in a street race. He needed that money, and he needed it now. Yeah bro, don't be so mad. At worst, I'll just divorce this woman right away. I'll make sure she never disrupts our family harmony again. My husband and I both scoffed. We had both seen the look they'd just exchanged. But our mother-in-law was adamant. I stopped my husband, who was about to say more, and smiled slightly. You're right, why split up the family? I'd feel much more at ease with Mom here to help me through my postpartum recovery. My mother-in-law immediately pulled out her phone and bought me several new bags and pieces of jewelry. It was a slap in the face to Mia, but she didn't dare cause another scene. She just grimly picked up her son and trudged back to the rundown apartment our mother had left her. As for the dog, since it had bitten Mia, Mr. Fisher immediately dumped it on her. You said it's your son, so it's yours. Don't come asking me for medical bills later. Mia took the dog with her as well. An hour later, my brother-in-law said a friend needed him for something. My husband and I pretended not to know he was going to find Mia, and even covered for him with his mother. My husband sneered. They still want to mess with my son? I'll make them pay. He then made a phone call. Hey old friend. I need your help with something. I'll treat you to a 5-star dinner afterward. My husband had a classmate, Kevin, who had become a spiritual master after graduation. He was an expert at handling these kinds of supernatural affairs. He arrived at our house that night. After taking one look at my son, he sighed with relief. Good thing you realized there was something wrong with those bracelets. Otherwise, not only would your child's health have been transferred, but your own luck would have been siphoned away by your sister. They might try to melt down the bracelets and make them into something else to give your son. I have a talisman here. Put it around the baby's neck, and it will protect him from harm. I told him about my mother coming to me in a dream. Kevin cursed under his breath. Your mother is something else. That's when I learned that a dream from the dead could also drain my own life force. From beginning to end, she had only been trying to pave the way for my sister. She wanted Mia to win our mother-in-law's favor and live a glorious life. Tears fell to the floor before I could stop them. So she had never once thought of me as her daughter. And to think I had cared for her tirelessly when she was sick in the hospital. She might still be giving your sister advice. Only underworld officials can send dreams to the living. It means she chose not to be reincarnated. Also, she could keep helping your sister. My tears dried up. I never imagined she could hate me that much. I cleared my throat. Then how can I stop her from causing more trouble? You can report her to the Lord of the Underworld. He is a just ruler. After Kevin arrived, all these paranormal events suddenly seemed manageable. He took us to a nearby temple and quickly performed a ritual. He had me stand in the center of a circle. This is a gateway to the underworld. Go in, and tell them of all the injustices you have suffered. I saw the legendary Lord of the Underworld. I also saw my mother, standing to the side holding a bowl. She was shocked to see me. How did you get here? Even if you died, you should be at the bridge of oblivion. I didn't answer her. I tearfully told the Lord of the Underworld about her sending me the dream. Insolence. The towering figure trembled with rage. Using underworld secrets to meddle in mortal affairs. Take her away and throw her into the cauldron of boiling oil. He called for the book of life and death. He said that I had done many good deeds over the years and had been a filial daughter, so I was destined to live a long life. As for my sister and brother-in-law, those two wicked people, he waved his massive hand. Their names in the book turned from red to black. They will get what they deserve. The next second, I was back in the temple. My husband rushed to my side. How did it go? I shook my head. It's over. Just then my mother-in-law called, breaking the silence. Your brother and Mia are dead. They were mauled to death by that monster baby. The baby is at the crematorium now. You two get back here with my grandson right now. Nothing can happen to him. Kevin patted my son's head. Don't worry. You'll all be safe from now on. After thanking him, we went home. My mother-in-law looked like she had aged 10 years. It's all my fault. I let your brother marry that crazy woman. After that day, she fell gravely ill. She passed away not long after. My husband, our son, and I moved to a different city and lived out the rest of our lives in peace.